Cultivators will plant seeds or take cuttings from a mother plant, producing a clone or immature plant. A cultivator will be required to keep track of the origin of the seed or clone and will likely track its growing environments, ingredients, and many other attributes of the cultivation process, including harvest dates and the detail of the inventory the plant produces. Seeds or clones, once tall enough, strong enough, or rooted, will be transitioned or transplanted into a vegetative state, or veg, allowing it to produce leaves and grow to various shapes and sizes. The track and trace and/or seed sale software will be used to issue a batch, lot, and/or plant ID or plant RFID tags as soon as a plant is considered a viable cannabis plant. Rules will vary in their definition of a batch, a lot, and requirements for tagging plants, but typically a group of plants of the same genetics or strain will be grown and harvested together. Different genetics will require different feeding, watering, and pruning routines and have varying lengths and life cycles. In indoor and controlled environments, growers also track the amount of light a plant gets. A marijuana plant will stay in the vegetative growth phase if it's given anywhere between 18 to 24 hours of light a day. Flowering plants require a lighting environment closer to 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness in a day. Track and trace softwares will require cultivators to record when a plant is moved from veg into its flowering stage. During the flowering stage, plants are reacting to the change in lighting cycles and begin to produce dense flowers or buds. Flowers can look very different, and each, when consumed, can have various effects. Cultivation personnel may use cultivation documentation and worksheets to record water, feed, nutrients, pesticides, and other daily inspections and actions. Should all natural and pest and fungicide inhibitors be insufficient, some cultivators may use agriculturally approved pesticides and fungicides, which should be used in accordance with pesticide and pest management plans. Ingredients and chemical additives used in the product of cannabis are oftentimes required as part of the track and trace and labeling requirements defined by rule. Cultivators will be required to record various data points when harvesting the plant, such as harvest date, who harvested it, wet weight, and waste weights. Because the delicacy of the plant, harvesting procedures require careful attention to detail, including proper handling, separation, and labeling of batches and lots. While the cannabis plant creates very little waste, waste management and tracking is critical for both environmental safety and security reasons. Tracking waste can mitigate product loss or theft. For example, if you start with 100 clones and end up with 75 plants transplanting into veg, the remaining 25 should be accounted for as waste or theft. Waste will regularly be produced as part of cultivation. From the removal of dead or yellowing leaves to the destruction of root balls and the other unusable aspects of the cultivation process. A reasonable cultivation company will not only follow all waste management rules as defined by regulatory agencies, but will also work to minimize environmental impacts. Standard operating procedures in waste management plants should be used to ensure compliance with culling, destroying, and waste requirements. A waste management plan, inclusive of considerations for water and reservoir runoffs, will help a company to manage track and trace, theft, costs, and the company's environmental footprint. Odor plans will also help to reduce environmental impacts and keep neighbors happy. Once a plant is harvested and hung to dry, cultivators might continue to track various data points such as temperatures and humidity to ensure quality plant drying and curing process. Different genetics may require different curing or trimming procedures. Whether the product is hand trimmed or machine trimmed will impact how much secondary material or if any waste is created, as well as the physical appearance of the final product. Company rules and/or track and trace software will require employees to report weight of the bud, trim, and the waste created as a result of curing and trimming the flowers. If at any time the inventory displays signs of mold, mildew, seeds, contamination, the person making the observation should report the issue immediately. Cultivation companies will have plans in place for quality control, including recall plans should any product be deemed contaminated or hazardous. Cured flower dry weights will be recorded in the seed to sale track and trace software as a lot, batch, or package weights, and oftentimes will require testing prior to distribution or further packaging. Many cannabis laws and rules require testing, usually by a third party licensed laboratory. Labs are commonly testing for microbiological contaminants, heavy metals, THC, CBD, and terpene profiles. Testing documentation and sampling procedures and plans for recall or remediation are often part of the company's quality assurance plan and demonstrated through its use of seed to sale and/or file storage and management systems. Testing provides valuable insight to quality control and cannabis pest management efforts. Many concerns have been raised in both the expectations and standards cannabis businesses are being held to regarding the use of pesticides. Track and trace and testing document procedures have become valuable tools in supporting quality and safety in consumer products. After dry weights have been recorded and product has been tested, the flower bud and/or trimmings can be packaged, labeled, and prepared for further process, distribution, or sale. Packaging should be done in a sanitary environment suitable for packaging as approved and required by regulatory agencies. Careful attention to packaging is often required by rule. In many areas, products must be packaged in opaque, tamper-evident, and child-resistant bags, boxes, or containers. Packaging will include warning labels inclusive of the clear statement that the package contains cannabis. Rules regarding branding and advertising are also common. Each jurisdiction will vary in its requirements for distribution and transportation protocol. Some states, such as California, have designed entire license types uniquely for the distribution and transportation of marijuana. In other states, such as Colorado or Arizona, a trip plan or manifest between licensees, such as a cultivator and/or a dispensary, are required. Manifest requirements vary, but typically require the detail of the people, the product, and the route plan for delivery. In accordance with all state rules for transfers, distribution, and sales to other licensed facilities or eligible customers, the inventory control system will require validation of specific data points, as we have discussed through this course. When allowed, the company will only distribute to licensees approved by its regulatory agencies and will allow for transfers amongst licensees with a valid license number and proof of active license. Product will need to be labeled or tagged with traceable details and enabled by the track and trace or software system. Usually, a cannabis business must produce and maintain a manifest when transporting cannabis. To verify that the cannabis was produced and acquired by a licensed vendor or a customer, a manifest should be generated to include, but not limited to, the weight and description of the individual packages as part of the shipment, the name of the registered grower or producer. Track and trace software most always require the detail of the invoice record, that is, the sale of marijuana. Each distributed item should be recorded on an invoice in the seed to sale software. When using both seed to sale and track and trace software, invoices will typically be sent via Software Application Programming Interface, or API, in real time to the government required track and trace systems. Due to banking issues with the industry, tracking cash sales can oftentimes be complicated. Seed to sale software will also allow for plugins for merchant processing, cryptocurrencies, and other payment and cash management solutions appropriate for the cash intensive businesses. The company's standard operating procedures and the point of sale system training manual should provide specific procedures for recording sales and distribution based on federal and local rules and regulations. Tax collection will also oftentimes need to be reported at the point of sale or transfer. Many areas require cannabis-specific taxes in addition to the common sales and use tax. Personnel responsible for invoices will want to ensure each invoice records the appropriate sales amount and tax records as required. Taxes are discussed in more detail in the reporting lessons offered by Atlas 420. Atlas can generate manifests to ensure compliance when allowed by local jurisdictions. Some track and trace software, like Metric, do require use of manifests generated uniquely from their track and trace system. Using Atlas as your seed to sales software system, it is easy to produce a manifest using Metric. Manifests and trip plans can be backed up and stored in Atlas for compliance. Atlas also includes scheduling elements and elements of time for marijuana distribution companies. There are Atlas plugins for online ordering and invoicing, as well as add-ons for real-time GPS tracking and product and or money tracking.